Oops. Started it again. I couldn't get to the pause button fast enough. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome to Cast and Camo. What's up, Eric?
Hey, good. How about yourself?
You know what? Not too bad. It's the end of my mini vacation prior to the Christmas holiday. I had 3 days of ice fishing, well, 2, and then 1 day of raining. So back to work tomorrow. But man, it was a good day or a good weekend. It was a good break from work. That's for sure.
Yeah. Could have been better and went deer hunting.
You know what? It would have been awful. It would have been awful. It was raining for 2 days and super, super foggy. And no. Although I sat on Upper Red Lake and walked a mile and a half off the lake in a quarter inch of water, schlepping through all of that junk.
Yeah.
But we caught some nice walleye. It was fun.
Yeah.
And we got spearing for the first time. You know, it's always good to pop that cherry every year. The first time you go out, first time, you always forget something. You always break something. Something always goes wrong. And we kept the things that go wrong to a minimum. I broke a rod. You know, that was probably the worst thing that happened, and that's not so bad. Could be worse.
And you got to meet a game warden, I heard.
I did get to meet a game warden. He was very polite and very kind and very nice. But yeah, we got to know each other a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
And then I kicked him in the shin and
yeah, right.
No, and for everybody, there was 3 of us on the lake. Well, actually, there was a few more, but on the lake, you could only see the 3 of us. And he came out when we were tearing down, and I saw the guy walking out, and I knew instantly who it was, which was fine. We had the one fish and was still perfectly fine, but I had apparently grabbed the wrong fishing license. I had my North Carolina fishing license and not my Minnesota fishing license. So he had to look me up and to prove that I actually had both a license and a spearing license, which I did. I told him, I said, look, I stream all of my fishing and spearing live. So I do everything by the book. I don't break the law because I would be pretty freaking stupid if I would break in the law openly on live stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I had mistakenly grabbed my North Carolina license instead of my Minnesota license, but no big deal. Printed one off when we got back and put it in my bag, and so I'm good to go.
There you go.
So yeah, so we're back at it once again tonight. It's another Sunday. So we'll start out with our housekeeping items, just like we always do. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on our YouTube channel, Cast and Camo TV on YouTube. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube or listening on YouTube, we are live on Twitch every Sunday night. That's how we do this show. So we are live on Twitch under the name of Cast and Camo. He's Cast, I'm Camo. Well, that's how you remember it. We have some sponsors. We are brought to you by Texas Select Seasoning, which I had a mini chat with Wild Bill this week because I was trying to order some stuff for Christmas from his website. And his website is kind of going through some issues right now, which he's aware of. If you experience these issues, let us know. I'll get you a phone number that you can make an order on. Cast and Camo is the code for 15% off your order. And we'll hopefully be getting that website back up and running soon. Carolina Bass Company as well. You get 15% off of Carolina Bass Co. gear. Use code Cast and Camo. Thanks to those two. And then our newest sponsor that we brought on last week announced Sea Arc Boats. Still super excited. I think we're still going to try to plan on getting down to the factory, right, Eric?
Yep, definitely.
At some point this winter, and which will be fantastic. And then, and then the spring I'll sell my boat and get a new Sea Arc boat. Sounds great to me. And then I'll sell Eric. I'll just sell you my boat, and then I'll get the new Sea Arc boat.
I mean, make that better. Why don't you just give me your boat?
I don't think so.
And then you can go buy a boat.
I don't think that's how it's going to work. You want a wife? I'll give you one of those.
No, I've got a wife. Yeah, I don't need another wife. I've got enough wife. I mean,
for one life.
For one life.
Yeah.
I mean,
I get it. I get it. So last week we talked with Bob St. Pierre, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer from Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. It was a fun conversation for me because I've gone years listening to Mr. Bob St. Pierre on the radio here in Minneapolis. And it was interesting for me. I learned a bunch, which I have really every week. Almost every week that we've done the show, I've learned something, if not more than one something. So that was cool. And giving just the status update of what's coming up in the upcoming weeks. Next week is Christmas Eve. Next week is Christmas Eve?
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Wow. Okay, so no show next Sunday. Well, you're doing a stream, right? You'll have your regular stream.
I mean, it'd be
Fox
going
TV.
Christmas Eve stream. Yep.
Yes. So we won't be streaming Cast and Camo, but Chief Fox TV will be streaming his big shindig, right? Lots going on that night for you with your stream.
Yeah, a lot of going on.
Joker is he's been upgraded to singing a solo, I think is what you mentioned, right?
No. You are backing him up, you and Buzzer, to have to sing in the choir. He's the director. He'll be over there directing it. So we're having a meeting this week with the whole group. PB has actually decided that he wanted to join in and sing with us. And
he's the baritone.
Yep. We got it. We got it made. I don't think we can go wrong with this choir. For a half an hour, they're going to sing Christmas carols to us.
You know, the one drawback, the one flaw that I see in your plan is Casey Smokey is actually in an actual choir. Like, he's an actually good singer.
Oh, that's a drawback?
Well, I haven't heard his name listed in any of the...
he's definitely coming.
Okay.
He's definitely... He's just... And I didn't know that he was like a singer, because I could have put him up there right underneath Joker and Buzzard. You know what I mean? So we could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it should be done, because he'll definitely carry us.
Well, I heard PB is actually a really good singer too.
It's the beard. It's the beard what does it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That beard is too good to be true.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's painted on. Speaking of painted on. See what I did there? See that?
Yeah,
you like that?
You're pretty good.
We, or at least I, and I know others that I converse with on the daily, have been pretty excited about this guest for months. I was bummed that we had to wait until December to get to this point, to meet with him and to talk to him and to show off his amazing stuff. But we finally made it. It's been 14 weeks and we've been excited, right? To say the least. So we are going to bring in our guest tonight, Mr. Jim Bortz, the one and only Jim Bortz. There he is. And a lot of y'all may not know Jim or what he does, but you're about to learn.
Hey guys, what's happening?
What's up, Jim?
Hi, Jim.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling a little left out right now. I see a very white goatee and a very white beard. Hang on. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, please.
I can't believe this. Here he goes. I'm going to have to put my Santa mask on. I can feel this coming. Oh, my Lord. Where's those gloves at, Jim?
I feel more at ease now. I feel like I fit in with the older crowd that we're with tonight.
Yeah, what are you, 30 years younger than us?
It's something like that. Yeah. I had to do it. I told you I had my own plan.
Yeah, I know, but you haven't seen the gloves yet.
I like you better without your hat.
That's right. There you go.
Now back to my pretty self.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening and watching, Jim took a little bit of offense to the fact that I made a comment I was going to use a glove for catfish. And he called me the slang word for a vagina. And
well, let's just say it.
Well, he called me a pussy.
Yes.
So he showed up. I was going to wear a glove tonight, but he brought his own glove. I know he's going to pull it out. There it is. He brought his own glove. For me, I think the words he said before we went live were "bend over,"
Yeah.
and
It's only going to hurt a little.
It's only gonna hurt.
Officially, we're off the rails. 15 minutes into the show, I love it. It's awesome.
Yes.
But Jim, I've heard so much about you from Eric. He talks about you all the time. So I'm glad that we have somebody like you that knows Eric really well. I'm gonna readjust my camera. I messed it all up. But yeah, I've been excited, and not many people know this about me, but I'm a closet painter. I'm not very good, but I try. I kind of enjoy it. It's very frustrating for me because I have visions in my head, but they don't always translate to the canvas very well.
Welcome to my world.
Well, and I have a billion questions, and but I don't want to turn it into the Todd Asks Jim 8,000 questions about painting show, but there's going to be plenty. There's just a lot to talk to you about. You're an outdoors man. You are an amazing painter. You have a great beard. You have a great hairdo. What's there not to like? And you live in the majestic Wyoming, which is almost a dream come true.
Yeah, that might be the best thing about me.
Yeah. So if you don't mind just giving our audience that may not know who you are, just a quick introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a high level overview of you and what you do and how you've gotten there, if you don't mind.
Sure. Grew up in Pennsylvania, did 1,000 different jobs when I was there. At some point decided I was going to have to grow up and do something for real for a living, but couldn't. I'm not the kind of guy that likes being told what to do, so working for somebody else wasn't going to be a thing.
Nope.
So yeah, the art thing has always been something I was interested in. So I decided I was going to pursue that. And it's been 6 years now since I moved to Wyoming. I was out here 2 or 3 weeks at a time, 3 or 4 times a year, every year, shooting reference material, visiting galleries. And I did that for like 10 years. And it just got to the point where it was time to make the move.
Where were you coming from? Where were you living before you moved to Wyoming?
About an hour south of Erie, Pennsylvania. So
okay.
Right on the Pennsylvania-Ohio border.
Which explains why you were so close to Eric.
Yes, exactly.
That all makes a little bit more sense now.
He was probably about 2.5 hour drive to me, Jim.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah. I don't even think it was that long.
Yeah.
It's just it seemed like it was that long because I've always driven like an old man anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you're a painter. You have to wait for everything to dry, so you're in no hurry. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Well, when I met Jim the first time, he was not a painter. We fished together. And he used to, I remember when he first started drawing on paper and pencil, he would sit there on the bank while we'd be fishing, taking a break, and he would draw. And he really got into it and did really well. And then it just took off.
Yeah, it was something that I did in school, and I pursued it briefly when I got out of college, but I got frustrated with it pretty quickly and decided to try other things. And I didn't do I left the art completely for maybe 15 years.
Is that right?
Yeah. And and then got back into it again. And again, best decision I've ever made, and I've made some bad ones. So
I would think this was a pretty good decision based on what I know and what I've seen.
Well, my career has done nothing but move upward, have that upward trajectory since I moved here. It's been wildly beneficial to be so close to everything that I'm interested in painting. It was always just a lifelong dream of mine to bow hunt elk. And 10 years ago, I thought I'd never be able to do it. And now it's what I live for.
So is it almost fair to say that it psychologically, do you feel psychologically it had some benefit from moving away from where you were to where you are now? Just once you're there and you're close to the environment that you are interested in, that it almost clears the head of maybe what might be blocking some creativity, or was that any part of it at all?
A little bit. The biggest thing for me living here, before I always felt this pressure to, when I was here, I'd take a trip and I felt like I had to shoot enough good reference material and get enough painting ideas to last me before my next trip.
Right.
That pressure's not there anymore. Everything's outside my door. I've got mule deer. There's probably mule deer in the yard right now. I don't have to drive very far to find elk or bears, and there's grizzly bears everywhere out here. So I'm not struggling to find stuff like that. It's just so cool to be able to, when the weather's right and the conditions are right and it's the right time of year, I can go find what I'm looking for and not have to worry about, I need to get this done right now.
So how did you get to the decision when you said you left art completely for a long time? How long, once you came back to it, were you like, you know what, I'm going balls to the walls, I'm moving out there?
Mm-hmm. It was probably 10 years, a dozen years, something like that. I always knew that I would get out here at some point.
Sure.
And a sculptor buddy of mine, Bryce Pettit, I was talking to him on the phone one day, and he said, what's the holdup? What's keeping you from moving? He said, is it the fear thing? And I said, yeah, it's a new thing. I'm going to live in a place that I've never lived before. He said, you know what? That's not a good enough excuse. If it doesn't work out, what's the worst that can happen? You put your shit back in the truck and go somewhere else. Well, when he put it that way, it made perfect sense.
Right.
I was here in 6 months after that.
Is that right? Wow. That's, just not only the move, but was it, I don't know the exact timeline of things. That's what I'm trying to kind of nail down. So forgive my ignorance, but were you doing full-time art before you moved out?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't so much both a double-edged sword of I'm moving to somewhere far away, strange place, and I'm completely changing my career to this.
Yeah, for probably 7-8 years, I was doing the art full time and working weekends as a bartender. So I could at least make money. The painting didn't always make money to start out with, which that's part of the learning process. You have to be willing to put in those hours and not be financially rewarded for it. Just to know that at some point you're going to get to a point where you can do this for a living if you approach it like a job.
Yep.
Well, I remember, Jim, when you had your first art gallery in Erie, Pennsylvania, art show, me and Pam come up to that. Your first one that you had. Is that really when it really started to take off for you? Or not?
Yeah, that wasn't it was
Just south of Erie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. That was probably the first indication that I had that this could work.
Right.
I knew that I had a long way to go still, but it was a successful show for me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a nice surprise.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember your first painting?
Oh no.
You don't?
No. I can tell you that I used to work in acrylic.
Okay.
And when I approached galleries out here in the Rocky Mountain West, it was, okay, we like your work, but nobody is interested in acrylic paintings from an unknown artist. If you want to be in these galleries, you need to work in oil. And that was a big change for me. I went home and boxed my acrylic paints up and got the box shut and put them out in the garage and spent 6 months painting and not doing anything successfully. It was so humbling and difficult. But I pushed through that after a lot of soul searching and thinking, okay, this isn't going to work. But when I finally made that switch and started to get my feet under me with the oil paints, and I've started developing a painting style that I liked and that was resonating with the collectors, I had, and you can look for it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, I burned over 70 original paintings. Yeah.
You burned, like, literally took fire.
Yep. Built a fire in a fire pit at my parents' place on Thanksgiving, and my sister works in a television station. She's retired now, but she came and helped me video it. So the footage is actually really cool. And
No, it's not. That's all.
It was so liberating to get rid of all of that stuff and just move forward.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't need to be looking back at that and thinking, okay, well, this could, no, just move forward and keep getting better. And I don't look back at all.
Couldn't you have, like, put them in a box somewhere, and then once you made it big like you have now, you could sell them and make some money from them, and then you still are looking forward. You don't have to look back and see them; they're gone.
Well,
but at least you've got some money for them instead of ashes.
This is the thing with me. I'm so critical of myself that I would never want. I don't care what somebody was willing to pay for them. I wouldn't want those paintings out there.
Gotcha.
I cringe so hard when I look at the stuff I did 2 years ago. And
really?
Oh my God, I can't believe that somebody bought that. And and I shouldn't be saying that because I've got collectors that are like looking at their stuff on the wall now going, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I have made tremendous strides moving forward and getting better with help from some very generous mentors that I have befriended in the art world over the past several years. And they've helped me push forward. And then this crazy work ethic, this, like we were talking earlier, 8 hours a day, sometimes 10, 12, or 14. And I do it every day. my life revolves around the art, whether it's the hunting, the fishing, the photography, the camp. It all feeds what I do. So
Yeah.
my whole life revolves around this.
Yeah, and on your website, you talk about the life balance and trying to find that life balance, and how it's almost impossible.
Right. Yeah,
it almost feels like one is pulling the other sometimes too much, and then it's the opposite too much. And it's almost like you have to think of it like a pendulum. It's just it's going to continue to swing back and forth from one to the other, and trying to integrate and intertwine those two worlds. And clearly, you get inspiration for your paintings from your time out in the field, whether it's fly fishing or hunting, anything, or just out taking photos. I'm assuming is that part of what you do? You're just out there in nature taking pictures.
Yeah. What was it? 2 weeks ago, I was down in Dubois, Wyoming, with a couple of friends, Greg Beecham and Colt Idle, and we were on the Whiskey Mountain Bighorn Refuge out there, where the bighorn sheep come out of those mountains, and that's their wintering ground. And there's monster mule deers down there, deer as well. And we spent 2 mornings freezing our asses off and just having the time of our lives shooting photos of the bighorns and the mule deer.
I believe that.
It was so cool.
I get asked hunting a lot of, you didn't shoot anything, you didn't get anything, and it's like, I love shooting with my camera and my video as much as I enjoy harvesting an animal, if not more, because you get to bring in. It's majestic. It's the art of it, and shooting an animal. Anybody can shoot an animal, but if you get that right sunset with that perfect thing, and to capture that in a forever moment, to me is as good, if not better. Yeah,
well, and there's a different kind of reward that comes from my hunting and my photography, and for the hunting thing, it can't be duplicated for me, because I'm a backpack hunter, and I love to hunt elk, and I've just recently kind of gotten into the mule deer hunting thing. And you put one of those big bastards on the ground and quarter it by yourself and skin it, and then have to pack it out 3 miles in a backpack, making 4 trips. And you feel like you've done something.
Right.
Yeah. You've really done something when you pull that off. Then, shooting my reference material and going on trips like that, that's where the inspiration for this piece came from. It all feeds what I'm doing. It's all tied together, which is so few people can say that, are fortunate enough to be able to say that's how their life works.
Right. And I saw a comment in our chat from a good friend, Kelly Cakes, and the comment was that your painting called Eclipse she looked at it and it made her emotional. And she says, I don't know why, but it made me emotional. And now I'm going to put my critic hat on. I'm going to critique Jim Bortz paintings right now. The problem that I have with your paintings, Jim, is every one that I open is my new favorite. And I'm the cool thing, and from the very first time Eric showed me your paintings, it was like every one I opened and looked at, I was like, I wasn't just looking at a painting, I was feeling something. I was feeling that moment, like I'm in that grass looking at that horse or that elk or whatever it might be, or you can almost hear the wind. Your paintings are, I just absolutely love them. So I don't, I read Kelly's comment. I'm like, that shouldn't make you feel weird in any way, because I think that's the purpose of the artist. It's supposed to make you feel something.
Yes. If I can make somebody feel something through my art, whether it's positive or negative, I've accomplished my goal.
Right.
And to what you were saying, one of the coolest things I ever heard somebody say about my art, I was in a gallery in Jackson, and the couple that was standing in front of one of my paintings had no idea that I was the artist, and I was right there, and his wife asked him, she said, why do you like this? You've been standing in front of this for a while. And he said, it's rare that you see a painting, especially a wildlife painting, and you can say that guy has been there and seen that.
Yeah.
I don't want my work to ever be perceived as contrived or artificial, or I want people to know that I was there. I saw that. I immersed myself in the backcountry. I spend weeks and weeks and weeks out there, sometimes not feeling like I'm accomplishing anything, but I get to see things that other people just don't get to see.
Right.
And I get to speak about that with my art. And
Right.
I mean, trying not to get too deep with it, because again, all it is a board with some oil stuff smeared on it, really. So it's as deep or as shallow as you want it to be.
Right.
But yeah, I live what I do, and I hope that my art speaks that. When somebody says something like that about one of my pieces, it really it gets to me.
Well,
Oh, it has to.
I've got paintings here on the walls hanging from Jim that he gave me back when he first started, actually.
When I was
Those are supposed to be on the bird
acrylic,
pile, by the way.
Yeah. And he said on the bank, we were fishing the Allegheny River when we was both writing for magazines. He was writing for Muskie Hunter at the time. And he was actually doing a story on the Allegheny River that we was getting planned up that he was going to write. And we had this blue heron lift off from the bank across from us. And he went home and painted this. And it's hanging on my wall here. And I see that every day. And it reminds me every day of being on that Allegheny River, because we had some of the best times of my life muskie fishing on that Allegheny River.
That was the first really good painting that I ever did.
Yeah.
That one put me on the map with some of my contemporaries. The original was accepted into the Birds and Art exhibit in Wausau, Wisconsin. And was that the first time I got in? It was the first or second time I got into that show. And I got in 9 years running. And that was the launching board for my career. I met all of my heroes through that show and became friends with them eventually. And now, I don't have to go to that show anymore to see them. I can just call them on the phone and
Right.
say, what are you doing? Come on out for a week.
So when you say your heroes, are these men and women that were artist painters that were kind of inspiring you that with their work on the direction that you wanted to go with yours?
Absolutely. And sculptors too.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, I have more mentors as sculptors than I do painters, which is a little weird, but I guess I like people that do things with their hands, that make things. So that's really cool. And sculptors, I don't know why, but they seem to be a little more thoughtful about art and what they're making. They look at things differently than painters do, for sure.
Well, it feels like they have to. I mean, it's not 2D. You're making something 3D. So I would assume, I know nothing. I'm just saying words that make sense to me, but you would assume as a sculptor, they have to pay attention to shading and shape and all of those things that in a painting you have to take into consideration and know how those things translate to a canvas.
Yeah, Walt Matthias said it best. He said, as a sculptor, he said, I'm chasing gravity. as a painter, you're chasing light. And wow, I was just like, okay, that is simple and makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. So were any of your inspirations, the ones, the names that everybody knows, or at least when I say everybody, I really mean just me, Terry Redlin, Hansel, Hansen, none of those guys?
No.
None of them.
No.
Isn't that crazy? That's crazy to me.
Yeah. To start out with, it was Robert Bateman and Dan Smith. Some Carl Brenders. And it was funny because when I started doing this, I wanted to paint photographically. And when I figured out how to do that, it didn't resonate with me. It wasn't where I wanted to go with my art. So I started exploring, especially when I started painting with the oils, with bigger pieces of paint and a little bit more of a contemporary palette, bigger brushes, and a lot thicker paint. And that has morphed now into most of the painting I'm doing now. The finished work is all done with a palette knife. So
that's what I was
really
going to ask. Yeah. And with that, just a little bit that I know that I've tried with the knife is the pressure. It's all about the pressure and it's the touch. And that is very difficult.
Learning that, yeah.
It's very difficult.
Let me ask you a question, Jim. How many hours do you got into them right there in that painting?
These rams, probably 20, 25, something like that. I've got 4 days in them.
Unreal. Now, if you would have went back
and
20 years ago, how long?
I need to back up for a second too, because I hope we're not boring the shit out of people talking high level like this.
No. We're going to get into the details.
When I say palette knife, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's and most people have no idea but putting paint on with that is way different than putting paint on with a brush. But it adds texture to a painting and it gives it almost a sculptural quality, which is really appealing.
Right. So how long would
go ahead, Eric.
Do that back 20 years ago, Jim?
Say that again?
How long would it have taken you when you first started to do that painting?
I couldn't have done this painting 20 years ago. I couldn't have. I'd have been so enamored with making it photographic that I could not have composed this. These rams are from different photographs that I was able to put together in Photoshop, and I've learned so much about Photoshop too. Don't ever trust a photo that I send to you because it's probably not real.
Now I understand the art that I saw.
I'm really good at it now.
Well, I need you to do some Photoshop for me on Todd here, for Christmas. I got the perfect picture to send you.
I'm sure you do. How many different sized knives do you have?
Probably 10, but I only use 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And one I used specifically for mixing, which is a bigger one. And then I have 2 smaller ones, one with a pointed tip and one with a round tip that I use to apply paint.
Okay. How many you don't use brushes at all then?
Oh yeah.
You must.
Yeah, there's brushes all over this place. And most of what you see here was done with a brush, but all the finish work
right.
In that I've done on this face, that's what I was doing today. Most of that was done with a knife.
Yeah.
This is going to be a question. This is a question for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got 20 hours into that painting, do you not have to worry about where you stop today, and if it's going to be, and I know it's oil, it takes forever and a day to dry. Is there a difference between when you're working with it? If you're trying to blend something, you got to blend that today and you can do something different tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's definitely a cutoff point, right?
Absolutely. Like today, I quit an hour before we got on because I knew that if I went farther, I'd be fighting the paint tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
I picked a spot where I could quit and knew that I would be able to pick up without any trouble and mix those colors and get back in there and do that wet on wet technique.
Is that something that you just learn over time, or is that something you've learned from people telling you like this is what to look for? Or is it just experience, or both?
Greg Beecham, he's the best wildlife painter going today. He and I have become really good friends, and he's who I was photographing these rams with, and I spent 2 days in his studio with him as well. And he was the one that showed me, you have to figure out how long you're going to be able to spend painting today, and then pick an area of a certain size and say, okay, this is what I want to get through today. And if I can get past that and take on another little section, fine. But if I get that done, then I know that I can stop there and pick up tomorrow and have the painting look like it's contiguous.
Right. I haven't figured that out yet. So when I start one, I go until it's done.
No, I get it. Yeah.
That's usually my downfall, because then I'm like, I hate this. I hate all this looks. And I throw it to the side and say, I'll try again tomorrow.
Oh, believe me, I've got another whole pile of paintings in the back room that I'll be burning here as soon as.
Hey, Jim, we do have a question from Maximus. He's from Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to know where you see these rams and what species are they?
These are Rocky Mountain Bighorns, and they're in DuBois, Wyoming.
There you go.
Gorgeous.
Does Jim ever work plein air?
I don't know how to pronounce that either.
Yeah, plein air. I have. I don't do it very often. Plein air is where you go out on location and take an easel with you and your paints, and you set up and you paint landscape or whatever while you're.
So you do all your stuff. What she's asking, Cheryl's asking on Twitch here. You do them all through photo references. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard to get these guys to stand still long enough.
I can imagine.
I'm assuming you've tried.
Well, I had a real manly friend of mine ask me years ago. He said, you paint a lot of wildflowers. He said, you're real confident with your masculinity, aren't you? He said, why do you do that so much? I said, because they don't get up and run away while you're trying to take pictures.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So 20 hours. That's broken up over approximately 4 days so far. That blows my mind to start with. But do you get into do you ever get into the Michael Jordan zone?
That too. I've got 20 hours of paint in that. I've got probably another day of drawing.
Okay.
And at least another day of manipulating the photos in Photoshop and doing the composition work.
Okay.
So,
got it. Okay.
I've got way more time in it than just the painting. And then when you start looking at, how much time did it take me to shoot this reference material, to sort through it, the drive time getting down there and back, you're looking at a substantial amount of time before you ever even think about putting paint down.
Right.
Yeah, but you just do it while you're out hunting anyway or fishing, so it's kind of like two birds with one stone sort of thing, isn't it? Like, as long as I'm out here, I might as well take some pictures of those majestic stags that are out there.
I'll send you the pictures of him sending to me when he's out there. I mean, like these rams here, I don't know if they're the ones you sent me a couple weeks ago or not. Whether it is. All right. So because I
know photo shoot anyway.
Yeah. So so I get pictures. Me and Jim talk quite a bit. So he'll send me the pictures when he's out doing this. And believe me, he does a lot of traveling and photos and spending time out in the woods so he can capture these, like the wolves that you were at that one location this past summer. That was amazing.
Yeah. And a lot, I shouldn't say a lot. Some of my reference material isn't wild. So there are some game farm facilities where you pay, it's an exorbitant price for 2 or 3 days to go shoot, say, usually it's predators, because those are the hardest ones to photograph and get good material on location of. So shooting wolves, I mean, you can do that in the park and get lucky. Here, I mean, I live really close to Yellowstone, but you rarely get close to those wolves. And if you do, you have to be really lucky, and then you rarely get great photos. These animals are trained. And so you can go there and the handler will throw a rock down and say, "Mark," and that wolf will go over and stand on that rock. You can get the light right. You can get everything as long as the weather cooperates. The last couple times it's rained the whole damn time. But yeah, bears, we get some good bear stuff. Foxes, bobcats. Most of the stuff that I've shot and painted of those animals were from facilities like that, where they're not necessarily wild animals, but they're at least we can photograph them in the wild, in settings like that.
Right.
That kind of, to me, that sounds more like Eric's hunting for whitetail. It's they're tame. They're kind of tame like that too. He just puts a feeder out in front of a stand and waits.
Well, Jimmy Houston is his hero, right?
I can't believe you went there.
He said it, not me.
Yeah, I know. This
is great. This is great. 2 against 1. Finally.
There's a reason he doesn't stream his hunts.
I did this year.
Yeah, I said, look at those pretty pets that Eric's got right there.
You guys are horrible.
Well, if you saw the deer in my yard, you'd be giving me shit too.
The thing of it is, Jim has hunted with me a lot of times. We've spent a lot of hours out in the woods. And I lived in one of the best places, I think, in Pennsylvania to be able to be out in the mountains. I actually was in the woods and on the streams and everything every day. I'd come home from work, park that cruiser, and away I'd go down on the river fishing for muskie. It was like the best thing ever.
Yeah, and
nothing wrong with that.
It's funny. It's so much different I grew up bow hunting whitetails in Pennsylvania, and I got good at it. Moving here was starting from zero.
Yeah,
it's so different, and I've picked hard stuff to do. I realized I moved here thinking I was in pretty good shape for my age, and understanding really quickly that I was not.
Yeah,
maybe for my age, but in no ways in mountain shape. And so I train all year to hunt.
Even just the elevation, right? I mean, that's got to be a huge difference from where you came from.
Yeah, I'm right at 5,200 feet here, and where I'm hunting is usually above 8.
Oh,
so yeah, and the first time you experience, you're like, holy shit, this isn't for me.
Jim, we do have another question for you from Kelly Cakes. She's from Kentucky, here close to me. She wants to know if you've ever painted people.
Yes. Yes, I don't do it much anymore, but one of the images I sent you was a hunter
Yep.
a piece.
Yep, we'll pull those up here shortly. Yep.
Yeah. So I do it from time to time. I don't do it very often. I like doing it. I'm not as good at it as I could be if I, of course, did it all the time. This is the wildlife and landscape thing has turned into my niche, and that's what my collectors want from me now, and it's what I'm most happy doing. I used to paint a lot of girls, and just getting dates out of it. So that was
Hey,
what
a man.
one of those slime bag guys. I get it.
Jim's got game. That's what he's saying.
So,
Hey, baby. I can just picture it now. Jim back in the day. Hey, baby.
there's
I'm
a
a
painting
painter.
behind me from a Kentucky artist named Kelly Brewer. And she's an outstanding painter. She does a lot of portraits and figurative stuff. So if Kelly's interested in that, she needs to look Kelly Brewer up because she's one of the best.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. There
So
you
what
go.
you're saying is that it's you're painting, and I would assume it's kind of like a rock star, but in a different way. Like if you go to an art show,
Mhm.
there's got to be art groupies, right? I mean, there's got to be art connoisseurs that are there, and they're like, "Whoa, you're the artist?"
Well,
And you'd be
it's,
like, "Hell yeah, that's me."
that happens rarely in the wildlife art world, and even more so now that I'm 60. So
Well,
I,
I've seen crazier things.
I've said for quite a while that I'm at the age where the women I'm interested are no longer interested in me.
Well, that's one way to look at it. You never
Jim,
know.
if you only knew Jim, you got that a lot better.
So I have a very difficult question for you. And you can even say, I don't want to answer that. And that's okay. But if you answer it, I want true honesty. Okay. How much do you despise Bob Ross? I have a follow-up to that.
Not as much as Terry Redlin.
Oh, it's okay. All right. So do you?
That's going to get me a lot of hate in the northern Midwest. I get that.
Oh, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. I don't know him personally, but
No, and I don't either, but I'm just talking about his work.
yeah, okay. So do you Bob Ross philosophy? You know, everybody knows Bob Ross.
Yeah.
And he is kind of what got me starting to paint because I was watching him bored on a Saturday or whatever. And I'm like, I could try that. We've got paints, so I grabbed my oil paints.
You want about Bob Ross, but he never claimed to be something that he wasn't. He was straight up front about what he was doing, and anybody can do this. It's simple. It's straightforward technique. You're not creating museum masterpieces. You're doing something fun that you want to do. And that's all it was. And I have no problem with that.
But if you take that philosophy, can you start with that philosophy and morph and grow into Jim Bortz?
No.
You can't.
No. You have to learn how to draw first.
Really?
Yes.
I'm out.
That's the foundation to everything, is learning to draw.
Really?
Yep. And if you can't draw, you're not going to be able to paint because you're skipping ahead steps. You need to spend a year, 2, 5 years filling sketchbooks and learning to draw. Period.
All right.
So I know nobody wants to hear that because everybody wants a shortcut, but it's the honest truth. If you can't draw, you can't make a believable painting.
It makes sense. I just can't draw. So I guess I'll just stick to my simplistic
Rubber glove for catfish.
I can tell you one thing: the glove that Jim brought ain't helping me with no catfish.
Jim, you do have another question from a young lady
Where that catfish is.
from Indiana. She wants to know if you ever painted people's pets, and I can answer that. Yes.
Yeah, I have. I haven't done that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a decade since I've painted a dog, but yeah, I love dogs and I don't mind painting them. I just don't have time to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And don't sell yourself short, because you already have someone in our chat that is a #1 fan club member of Jim Bortz. She even posted your Instagram in chat for everybody to look at your pictures, but the comment she made was Jim Bortz at the gym. Hello. And I pulled the picture up and I'm going, damn, Jim's got some pipes.
Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said I train all year for hunting. That's what I go to the gym 4 times a week. Every morning I'm up at 5:30 and go to the gym before I start this or whatever else I'm going to do. So
how hard is it to not just sleep in? I'm out here. It's beautiful. I'm an artist. I'm a painter. Everybody knows me. I'll get to that tomorrow and just sleep in. How hard is it to not do that?
If you'd have asked me that 20 years ago, I'd have said it's really hard to sleep in. I'm up at 5:30 every morning, whether I've set an alarm or not. So it's and being an old man, I go to bed at 10 o'clock. So yeah.
All right. We have another question. Kelly Cakes here in Kentucky. She wants to know, will Jim come to Kentucky and paint some buttercream on a cake? Please and thank you. Now, I'm going to tell you, Kelly, he's been to Kentucky to my house several times. I don't know if we'll ever get him back here, but if he comes back, we'll come down and paint some cream on your cake, all right?
And I mean, for Jim, Kelly is an artist in her own right. I mean, what she does with cakes is,
she is.
I consider it art.
Yes, it is art. It is art. She does.
She can do things with a bag of buttercream that I can't even do with a pencil. She's amazing.
And we also have No Doubt Big Trout in our channel right now. He is the one I talked to you today about, Jim. That is the airbrush.
Oh yeah.
Yes, artist, and he is very good at it. Where he paints with the airbrush different people's animals and that. Fantastic.
Nice.
Okay, so I want to get back to the Rams behind you.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 hours of painting, and that's broken. Or I'm sorry, 24 days of painting.
Yeah.
Do you ever get in the Michael Jordan zone where everything you're doing, it's like magic with your knife, and it's just coming out perfectly, and you're like, I can't stop. I'm in the zone, and you just go for 18 hours straight?
I do get in that zone, but it never lasts that long.
Okay.
That's like I'll be in that zone and I'll be working and everything's going great, and then I realize that I haven't gotten up from my chair and stepped back and look at the painting, which I always get up and look at the painting from a distance, and then I'll be like, oh shit, that's all wrong, and I have to go back and scrape it all off and start over again.
Oh wow,
that happens a lot.
That's got to really suck though.
Yeah. There's the biggest painting I ever did is a moose piece, 2 bulls that are squaring off to fight. And I don't remember. It might be 3 feet by 6 feet. But I painted the background for that 4 times, scraped it off and repainted it 4 times. And that's a lot of work on a piece that size. Right. And that piece took me over 2 months to complete.
Now, did you have to do that because of your perception of it not being perfect, or what you would consider perfect, or how
it's never perfect.
Level up?
It wasn't acceptable was what it was.
Okay.
Yeah,
so Do you have a place that you're sending this to a gallery? This piece that you're doing now, are you getting ready for another gallery?
I've got a one-man show coming up this summer at the Dick Idle Gallery in Whitefish, Montana. And I need 10 pieces for that show. So this is probably going to be one of them.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I know you just come back from Steamboat, the show in Steamboat, and you actually sold my best one that I really liked the most, which pisses me off. I wanted it as my birthday present. Was the trout? I thought.
The trout one. Yeah.
You are not cute enough to get a painting from me for your birthday.
Well, how do you think I got all these? These were for my birthday, you turd.
Sounds like it's time to start making Katie friends with Jim.
Yeah.
She might get presents. She's definitely cuter than you.
Well, thanks.
That's a pretty damn low bar.
Well, that's true too. That is true.
Poor Katie.
So in talking about shows and getting ready for shows and making paintings for those shows, who are your customers? If you could put it in a nutshell of who your customers are, can you? Are they, do you have like a group of 10 to 12 people that are buying your paintings on a regular basis? Is it corporations? Is it individuals like me that hit you up on your Instagram after seeing your pipes and you're like, dude, you're ripped. I need a painting from you. Or where are you getting your customers from?
I do have one corporate customer. The Uline Corporation buys a few pieces from me every year. But most of the time, I don't know who my customers are because the galleries keep that under. They're like La Costa Nostra when it comes to their client list, and they don't share it with a lot. I won't say all of them, but most of the galleries don't share that with their artists because they're afraid that the artist will
go straight.
Yes. And then, of course, I'm going to make more money that way, but it cuts the gallery out of there, which I won't do anyway because I don't want to peddle my artwork. I want to paint. Right. I want to go hunt and shoot photos and fish and paint, and I want somebody else to sell my artwork. And if it costs me 50, 45, 40%, which is what the galleries are taking, that's fine. I'm good with that because it means I don't have to do it. I don't have to deal with the shipping, and I struggle selling myself. An artist I admire, I could sell their work all day. Mine, I can't do it.
Well, let's go one step before you start showing some of the pictures here, and we need to get to that point. But Jim, I want to finish that photo or the painting that you have behind you. So you get the painting done. Let's talk about the framing, what it takes, because I want to try to get that, because I understand that because I've been around you for a long time, and I know the kind of money that you put into these frames is a lot of money. So, it would be more than my four-wheeler. So go ahead and take us through the last steps of that painting.
Well, yeah, at this point, I can order a frame for this because I know where the painting is going and I know the color scheme. And so, but I can't order a frame before I start it, which is unfortunate because it takes me 6 weeks to 3 months to get a frame.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, the custom made Western frames that work on my stuff and that the collectors want take a long time to build, and the guys that do them are real professionals, and they don't send stuff out that isn't perfect. But yeah, it's with shipping and everything. This moose piece I have over here, that frame I've got almost $1,000 wrapped up in it.
Wow.
This one I'll have $400 wrapped up in that frame pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
I
crazy.
just wanted to go to the end piece because
Yeah.
after you're done, you get it framed, and then you like put them away until you go to your next gallery show.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and by the time I'll do my gallery road trip is what I call them, because I have 3 galleries in Montana that I swear you could throw a big ass blanket over them. So when I deliver paintings, I delivered all 3 of them. Well, by the time I'm ready to do one of those road trips, I've got stacked. I can't even move in this place. It's like, okay,
right.
this all needs to go away. It needs to go now, which is another reason why I burn so much stuff.
The other step of this, so I can make the audience understand, once he takes this to the gallery, someone walks in and says, I want that to the gallery. They don't pick that painting up and walk away with it. That painting stays. Oh, they can? I thought you had a contract where they had to stay there till April, like them coyotes.
Oh, no. Now, that's with the museum show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's with the museum show. So the galleries are just like shopping in a jewelry store. You walk in, if you've got the cash or the credit card, you're walking out with it unless you want to ship. The museum shows are a different thing because they don't have the inventory or the option to, if they sold a piece and took it off the wall, they would need to replace it with something, and they don't have anything to do that with. The galleries do.
Yeah. And what was neat too, just to let you know, Todd, he got an Audubon art show here and came down here to my place and actually had his paintings right here at the Audubon.
Oh, nice.
Here in Henderson, Kentucky.
Is that what that was called? I don't even remember.
Yeah, that was the Audubon art exhibit. Yes, but they contacted you and had your paintings put in.
I forgot all about that.
Yep. That was, they actually held it at the college here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think they still do that.
Yes, they do. They do. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple questions from chat. I'm gonna roll it into one of the questions that I had. It might take the roundabout way to get there, but the galleries, do they contact you to say, I've got somebody, they want X or they want Y, go find it, go do it? Or is it just you that comes up with the creative mindset of, I'm going to go shoot rams and that's what we're going to paint? Or how often are you taking orders, or and are there orders that you will say no to if it's just too hard or too ridiculous? Like if somebody says, I want a mountain lion behind a unicorn, do you say no?
I say no to almost all of them.
Really? Yes.
We talked about earlier how I don't like being told what to do. So yeah, commissioned work for me is a problem because I feel like I'm being micromanaged. So I have some very specific guidelines that I give to my galleries and my collectors. If they want to do commission work with me, then we need to work within these parameters. And it's far more expensive than my standard work. So I maybe do one commission a year.
What about just like a high level generic, I want a coyote. I want a coyote painting. Is that generic enough that would fit into?
If somebody says, I want a coyote painting and this is what I want to spend, or this is the size that I want, what's it going to cost me? I'll tell them the cost. And if we get past that and they say, okay, I want your vision, we're good. I will absolutely tackle that. But if they say, yeah, I want a coyote jumping over a burning sage bush and an elk shed laying on the ground in front of it, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm out. you need to pick somebody else for
that's
that.
what. Yeah, that's when you say go learn how to use Photoshop and make something yourself, right? And I knew this question was going to come up eventually, and Christine finally brought it up, and I was going to get to it at some point. But prints, I know everybody watching and now and in the future is going to be like, damn, I love these, but I don't. And I know somebody earlier asked what are the price, and I know the prices are going to vary. I don't even know if you share pricing other than expensive. Yeah. And people can kind of get an idea when you're talking about $1,000 frame. You can get an idea of what kind of pricing we're talking about with the paintings themselves. I kind of know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it and give you reasons for prints. Do you do prints?
I don't, but I used to. The piece that Eric was talking about with the blue heron on the Allegheny River was a print. And I found out fairly early on that the only people that were making money off of my prints were the printer and my framer. So I was like, yeah, I need to start concentrating more on selling originals, which I hadn't really thought much about up to that point. And the print market is an Eastern market. Nobody buys prints in the West. And
Really?
Yes, they want originals, and they don't care what they cost. And that's the market that I'm after. Now, I wish everybody could have the painting that they want or the print that they want. And you know what? If I can find somebody that can tackle that for me and do it reasonably, but I don't have time to deal with it. So at this point, no, I don't offer prints, and I don't see that changing in the near future.
That's fair enough. It makes sense. It's your IP, right? I mean, that painting is your IP.
I have super limited space here. I live in this crappy little apartment here in Cody, Wyoming, where I've turned the living room into the studio. Basically, I have a bedroom off of my studio where I sleep. I don't have any place where I can store prints or do framing processes and shipping and all of that stuff. So the occasional time when I have to do that with an original is fine, but to do it on a massive scale where it would take to make selling prints worthwhile is just not a viable option for me.
Yep. Right. And you kind of answered there. One of my other questions was going to be, do you have an extra bedroom, and would you be willing to adopt?
The extra bedroom is called the workroom. So when my friends come, that's where they stay, and it's a little cramped, but you're still in Wyoming and it's free. So, but no, I won't adopt. I don't want to adopt, and it's one of the reasons that I'm still single.
Yes. I mean, I'll cook.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, you won't cook better than me.
Yes, and I mean,
I can clean then.
Jim is a very good cook. Yeah.
22 years.
Let's hop over to. Let's take a look at some of the paint. I'm pretty sure everybody that's watching live now has already gone to the website !art if you haven't, or clicked on Sarah's drooling link of Jim.
Or Kelly Cakes wanting to do a bride with a cake, Jim. I just.
It's going to be a lot of cakes, Kelly.
Lord, yes.
Well, if she looked at my Instagram picture, she'd know I don't eat sugars.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's dive into. I literally have not been able to take my eyes off that picture behind you. It is. And I know you're going to tell me it's like 63% done, and I'm looking at it going, it's done. What else can you do to that to make it look even better?
I need to change the background on it. The background is a little dark. I need it to be a little more contrasty, like it is in this area. The reason that I wanted to paint it was the shape of this ram in the back. So that was my whole inspiration for the painting. The ram in the front is just a focal point that I needed to make this ram work. This is the one that I really wanted to paint. So
interesting.
That first layer of paint is me trying to figure out where the values need shifted, what needs to be lighter, what needs to be darker, what places need to be warmer. Is my color off a little bit here or there? So I think I've got it right on his face now. Tomorrow I will probably start working. These horns are just a nightmare to paint. There's all those striations and grooves. Yeah, those will take a long time and a lot of concentration to get
right. Let me ask you one question before you do this. How big do you, when you take a photo, Jim, I know we've talked about this and the other people don't know, how big do you blow that picture up to be able to do these fine, really fine points on antlers and stuff like that?
I don't blow it up too much because I'm not putting a lot of detail in there. If the drawing is right, the detail doesn't need to be there. I'm not painting hairs. I'm painting groups of hairs. I'm talking at a really high level here. I'm trying to say more with one brush stroke than I could with one big brush stroke than I could with 30 small brush strokes.
Right.
So that takes me longer to paint this way than it did for me to do the photographic stuff, because I knew without question I was just basically rendering shapes that were already in my reference material. With this more impressionistic style, I load a brush with paint and I sit there and look at that. Okay, where do I need to start it? What direction does it need to go? How far do I drag it? Am I going to screw up what's next to it? It's so much more difficult and takes so much more time to do it this way, but it's so much more effective.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
We'll get there. I still have so many questions. Have you ever just, like, maybe on a weekend, you maybe got into that bourbon a little bit heavy and whiskey, and you did an abstract painting?
I have done abstract paintings.
Is it weird? Is it like a bad weekend or a bad morning after a night in Vegas and you wake up next to some strange person? You're like, what happened? What in the world did I do last night? I did an abstract painting. What is wrong with me?
First of all, you don't have to be in Vegas for that to happen.
True. This is true.
But no, to do a successful abstract painting, I feel is more difficult than what I'm doing here, even because you don't have something interesting to start with. You have to make the whole interesting thing up in your head. And some people are able to do this by just starting and throwing paint down and seeing where it goes. I've never been able to work that way. I'm educated as an engineer. My brain doesn't work that way. But yeah, I have done abstract paintings, but they're very well thought out, and they're more color studies than anything else. And a lot of times when I was learning to do all of this, I would do an abstract thumbnail of a wildlife piece that I wanted, trying to work out the light and dark shapes without actually painting the form of the animal, so that wouldn't be distracting.
Right.
And it's helpful because then you start understanding why certain compositions work and certain ones don't, where if you just look at it in a photographic way, it looks photographic, but why does this photograph work better than this one? And it's because of the abstract shapes within the photograph. So you start breaking things down like that. It's a really useful tool to use.
I bet. See, that wasn't a totally crazy question. It got us to a very distinct answer about helpfully paint, or what you actually use to paint.
Yeah, well, I'm an artist too, so I might be completely full of shit when I say something like that.
Well, nobody would know the difference. I mean, I live my life off of pretending like I know what I'm talking about. I'm a master at that too. All right, so I've got how many? I've got 11 paintings to bring up of yours, and we're going to bring up the first one. I love it because, and again, this is my biggest critique of your art is every time I pull up a painting, I say, that's my new favorite painting right there. And then I open the next one. I'm like, shit, now I've got a new favorite. Everyone is a new favorite. But give us the quick story behind all of these. Where did this come from?
Okay, that is a buck that I photographed near Cody here. I think it was the first year I lived here. There's a couple of places where there are some really big whitetails. And this one, he was a little more busted up than I made him, but he was definitely that big. And I just remember thinking, man, I want to see the buck that busted him up.
Right.
He was really something. But yeah, I think this piece was 36 by 36. One of the ones that the Uline Corporation bought. I think it was the first one that they bought from me, as a matter of fact.
What do they do with them? Do they give them away? Do they use them in their offices?
No, I think that their corporate headquarters is full of amazing wildlife art. So, and I think it's massive. I think the place is massive. And I also, if I had to guess, I would imagine that at some point they're probably going to start a museum.
Wow. Interesting.
She buys a lot of art.
I guess.
And not just mine.
Maybe she wants to adopt. Maybe I need her. Maybe I'm going about this all wrong.
That would be way more productive than being adopted by me.
I don't know. I give good back rubs. I'm just saying. All right, now this one, I'm assuming all of the horse paintings are wild horses. Is that an accurate statement? Okay.
There's a wild herd about 15 miles from here called the McCullough Peaks herd, and I get to go out there from time to time, and they're amazing, stout animals. They're so muscular, and you think of a horse with these thin, fragile legs, and these ones just are not. They're coveted by the outfitters because they're short horses. So when they have to load the panniers and get them up on the horse, they don't have to lift them very far.
Right.
You've got 80-pound panniers, and you're just putting them on this little horse, and there's no water out there, which is insane that they live where they do with little or no water. So then now when the outfitters get pack horses from this herd, they don't have to worry about water. They can go places with these pack animals that most outfitters can't get to because horses are so dependent on water. And
right.
These ones just aren't for some reason. They've adapted to that, but
yeah, I was going to say adaptation and evolution a little bit.
Yeah, man,
and go ahead.
Spectacular animals, just they're so beautiful. I love going out there. I'm not an equine painter, but man, I just can't help myself. I love their muscularity and sometimes how angry they look. They just they look at you like they don't want you out there.
Right, they're going to kick your ass, Seabass.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of comments in chat saying how much people love the wild horses and how majestic and beautiful they are. Now, ironically, one of the guests that I'm hoping to get on is, I think, from the Wyoming area. But I would love to talk about wild horses in general, as in the last handful of years, last 5 to 10 years, how much of a problem the wild horse population has become for the land and ranchers and things like that. They've almost become a nuisance, which is a very interesting topic to me, at least.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle for me as well, because they don't belong there. They're invasive. They're there because we put them there, and it's not their fault.
Right.
I get that. So I'm always torn about how I feel about painting these animals. But damn it, they're so good looking and tough.
Yeah.
Man, living where they do in the heat and the dry and the desert, and they just thrive out there. These animals are tough, and man, I love that. I love portraying that toughness.
Well, that was one of the, I think, things that when I look at this painting, that's what I feel. I see that's not a, hey, let's go up and feed that little fella a carrot. That's more of a, I'm going to keep my distance because that thing is going to whoop me if I get too close. But at the same time, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly right.
All right, let's move on to the next one. I'm getting a little bit of a leg.
Boy, the frames that your stream has on these paintings just don't work at all.
Well, you know what? I don't have $1,000 to spend on frames, Jim. So you're gonna get what you get. I thought that I knew you were gonna say something too. As I was putting these together today, I'm like, you know what? This looks awful, but I don't have I'm gonna keep it.
I know.
Just a formula.
I'm just giving you a little shit.
I know. I appreciate it. So this is the painting that you were referring to earlier tonight, when Kelly had asked if you paint people or humans.
Yeah.
And I freaking love this. Was this somebody that you were with that you just said, hey, with that, if that's the moon or the sun on backside of those mountains, this is a perfect, I need this, I take a picture, or did this come from something else?
So this is a pretty unique piece because you don't see a lot of sporting art portraying successful women hunters. And so I wanted to do this piece for that reason. This is a friend of mine here in Cody, and we were elk hunting, and we were 5.5 miles in and had not seen an elk track, nothing. And the atmospheric conditions were so perfect that what you see in the painting is actually what it was. And I told her, I said, go out there with your rifle in your pack and just walk back and forth 3 or 4 times. And she was so mad at me. What are you talking? I just do it so I can take some photos. And so she stomped back and forth out there a few times and came back. She said, "Are you happy now?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I did a little study of this. I think it was only 6 by 8, and before I did the big painting, and so I sent her the study, and she cried when she got it. I said, "You done being mad at me now?" Like,
trust the process.
But this was in the Buffalo Bill show here in Cody, at the Center of the West Museum, 2 years ago. And I think it's 30 by 24. But yeah, the mule deer head on the pack, I added, but everything else in the photo is pretty much as it was out there. I moved some of the little sagebrush around to make the composition work a little better. But yeah, what you're seeing in the background, that was what I wanted to paint, and I just needed a subject in front of it, because it's so cool when you're up there at 10,000 feet and the sun's just coming over a peak that's a little bit higher, and between you and the sun is a snowstorm. So the sun is just kind of filtering through, but not really lighting anything up. And it was a really cool effect. And I think I got most of it.
And I'm going to say this real quick for anybody listening on whether it's SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, go to Cast and Camo TV on YouTube and watch this episode if you're intrigued. The paintings, you can't see them through SoundCloud or iTunes or Spotify. You can see them on our Twitch VOD. You can see them on YouTube. It's a must see. So definitely go over to YouTube and check them out. Let's go to the next one. Awesome. Again, awesome.
Oh, wow. That one's distorted.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think you're distorted, Jim. I think you're distorted.
Yeah, it's not on mine. Looking on my Twitch page.
Okay.
It looks pretty good to me.
Okay. Yeah, it's on mine. It's way wider than the.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really recent piece. It's actually hanging on the wall here in the studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the one with the $1,000 frame on it.
Oh, okay, okay.
But yeah, that was a background that I shot in the Tetons probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And I knew I wanted to do something with it. Just didn't know what, and didn't think I could really pull it off. And it was just a couple of months ago, I got brave enough to decide that it needed a big bull moose in there, and thought maybe I had developed a skill level where I could maybe do it justice.
I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I think you're doing okay with that. I think your confidence. See, that's why you need to adopt me. I'll be your cheerleader. I will bring that self-confidence right up, and I'll clean.
No pussies in Wyoming.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be fishing for catfish in Wyoming now, are we?
Well, yes, you can.
We're not going to, though. That's what I said. We're not going to.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Oh,
all right. Wow. So the next one.
Oh, yeah. This was from one of those wildlife facilities that I talked about.
Okay.
And the pup on the ground is actually the pup of the two adults there. The gray one on the left is the female, and then the big male on the right. And the piece, I knew I wanted to paint it because it was such a cool interaction between the three of them. And I struggle so much with titles, and I think about them a lot because I think they're really important to a piece, and a lot of times they sell the painting. But I don't take them too seriously either. Like, I don't take myself super seriously. And a Van Halen song came on my Pandora while I was working on this. I was like, there's the title right there. And it's called Have You Seen Junior's Grades? And yeah, that piece was in the gallery for literally 2 days before they sold it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they sold it really fast.
That's gorgeous, as they all are.
That is amazing.
As you look at that, it looks like there's a lot of detail in it, and there just isn't.
Right.
There's big brushwork and big tracts of fur, and I'm just going to say I don't paint hares unless they're really prominent in a piece. Well, this one is a perfect example of that, because the whiskers and eyebrows are such a prominent characteristics of the big wild cats that we have that you've got to put them in there.
Yep. But
yeah, another one from that wildlife facility. This is a really old bobcat that they have up there, and he's just a grumpy old shit. And, yeah, the handlers they keep their distance from him because he makes them bleed from time to time.
I can imagine.
Oh boy. So I have a question on the whiskers.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to figure out the right amount of dilution to get those whiskers to come off that fine brush? If that question makes any sense.
So I'm not really doing it that way.
Okay.
I will put that background color in to a certain degree and then paint the whiskers in on top of it, not really worrying about how fine they are.
Okay.
And then go back in and carve that background color into them. So they're fine because the background color is painted around them rather than the whisker just painted in one stroke.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's
That's awesome.
There's a big push-pull thing there where, I'll drag the brush across it and then paint the background color back in, and then the whisker color went a little dark, so I'll put some more light in on it, and it takes quite a while to do, but I'm not sure that I pulled it off completely well with this one, but it works. I'll get better at it.
That makes me giggle when you say that, because I look at this and I'm like, this is perfection at its finest. It's
okay. Now, while you're looking at the whiskers, now look at the fur patterns on the face.
Yeah.
And there are no hairs painted. There's no detail in that.
Right.
It's just a matter of making those edges soft where they need to be, hard where they need to be, cool, warm, dark, light, and pulling all that. So the drawing is right. So your eye ends up making it detailed in your brain when it's really not. The eye is detailed, but the rest of the painting really isn't.
Right. But it like you're saying, it gives that, not illusion. I don't know if illusion is the right
illusion is the
term.
perfect word. Yes.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, for this one, as much as I admire the whiskers, the eyeball pulls me right into it, and from that eyeball, my eyes and my brain is kind of interpreting the rest of the face around it, and so it's that detail in the eye makes everything else for me pop as a detail, and it's just, to me, it's amazing.
That's where your eye it needs to go. If it's going to all that detail in the whiskers, then I've failed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great painting. Great. I love that one.
Thank you.
Kelly Cakes wants to know if you would be willing to put out a painting by numbers for all of us.
Yeah, paint by numbers.
Well, if I get a little more popular, I'm sure the Chinese will have that available here in the next couple of years. They seem to be doing it with all of my other friends.
Oh my Lord!
You gotta take what you can get sometimes. So this is did this come from Wyoming, or is this something on your drive out to Wyoming?
No, this is from Yellowstone this year.
Okay.
I went in there and photographed the bison rut, which happens usually around the first week of August. It wasn't quite going crazy. They weren't smashing each other's heads and pushing each other around, but the bulls were chasing the cows, and they were grunting and getting a little angry and ornery, and this big guy was right along the road, actually, and I wanted his attitude. I wanted the juxtaposition of that pink and purple sky to that face that is just nothing but business. He's not taking any shit from anybody.
Right.
But there was some push pull there, and I wasn't sure how this was going to work when I started it, because it is so red and pink for a bison piece, but I'm really tickled with how it turned out. And that's just a typical morning Wyoming western sky. When that sky comes up over that horizon, and there's a little bit of haze in the eastern part of the sky, it just turns those brilliant colors like that. And I really wanted to paint it like that.
Well, and with art, it's interpretation too,
Yeah.
right? Like the first thing that comes to my head when I look at this is Montana with Canadian smoke in the air with the sun, because this is what we saw almost all summer, at least in Minnesota, was almost this color of the sky, and so it gave me that feeling of, hey, this is from that area, and I love it.
So my reference photos were not that color at all, not even close. So that part of it is pure artistic license. That when I do that, I'm never sure if it's going to work or not, and it doesn't work as often as it works. But I think it did work with this one.
I think it's perfect. I think it looks awesome. And yeah, I said it, Canadian smoke. We blame you, Canada, especially you, Trout.
They also got another question. Kelly's amazed with you, by the way, Jim. Has Jim ever had close calls in the wild, like got too close for his own good kind of thing?
Yes. Would you like me to elaborate?
Yeah.
I've been charged by moose on more than one occasion. I've been charged by grizzlies. I've been trout fishing here in Cody in September, just having an absolute riot, and looked up and had a grizzly standing across the river from me less than 40 yards away, just looking at me like I was out of my mind, which if you ever saw me fishing, you'd think the same thing.
Yeah, I've seen you fish a few times.
Yeah. And I've called in a couple of bull elk that got a little close on me too. So yeah, I've had more than my just this year elk hunting. I had a black bear come in to less than 10 feet before I let it know I was where it wanted to be, and so when I ran it off, it went a mile up the mesa and tore the rainfly in my tent apart.
Well, that's
right. I saw those pictures.
I had that on my stream. I shared that with my stream when you sent that to me. So the people from my stream, if you remember back a month ago when he sent them to me, I had them on my stream that morning of his tent that got tore apart.
So yeah, if I have a few people listening here, this is my opportunity to shit on Nemo. Yeah, I called them when I got back and said, I need a new fly for my tent. And they said, well, we don't make that one anymore, but we can send you some tenacious tape to fix it. We don't have parts for it. I was like, I paid $700 for this tent. You're telling me I can't get parts for it? He said, yeah, that's what we're telling you. So I bought a different tent. I will not buy Nemo products anymore. They're too expensive, and they're outdated too quickly and can't be replaced.
Yeah.
And we are not sponsored by Nemo. That's
we're not. Definitely not.
No problem there.
Yeah.
If you were, I wouldn't be here.
This is the painting that you were referring to, Eric, right?
Yes, this is the one I really loved. Yeah. And this is the one that sold right away at Steamboat.
At the Steamboat Art Museum. Yeah. So my trout paintings were my foot in the door to the Western art market. Those were the paintings that the galleries wanted because nobody else was doing that at this level. And what all it turns out is reference material. Most guys that, I shouldn't say guys because there's a lot of females out there painting trout too. But it's getting the reference material is everything. And if you don't have a dedicated underwater camera and crystal clear water and are able to catch fish, all of my trout reference is shot with a fish on the line. So I've got the leader in one hand and the camera shoved under the water in the other hand, trying to steer the fish in front of the camera and holding the shutter release down. So you have no idea what you're getting out there.
Right.
I may shoot 300 or 400 photos to get one usable one.
Right.
But that's what it takes. You can't, at least I can't, understand what that light looks like down there on those rocks and on that fish without actually seeing it. And so as with most all of my art, it's all about the good reference material. And this is the hardest reference material to get because 19 out of 20 streams aren't clear enough to shoot underwater. They look clear, but there's so much particulate in the water from volcanic ash and all the other stuff that happens to be in these western streams. It's really hard to get underwater reference material out here.
Right.
For me with this one, the weird part is obviously the fish is immaculate, but my favorite part of this painting are the rocks.
The light.
Because I can almost feel the waves or the water on those rocks, and it just.
I like the light transition in the whole against the trout, against the rocks on the bottom. That catches my eye really quick.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is when I'm painting that light on those rocks, it's constantly moving. And so if I can paint it in a way that doesn't seem static, which I don't know if I pull that off or not. Sometimes I feel like I do and sometimes I don't. But yeah, there's that vibration under the water where it's almost a kaleidoscope. Everything's changing and the colors.
It's fluid.
So that's really hard to capture. But I don't know. I think this one came pretty close to it.
Yeah, I think you did okay. It's pretty amazing job.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try to. We got to kind of pick up the pace a little bit to get done here in the next handful of minutes. But all of your elk.
I don't even know what to say about that. That is just amazing.
It's stupid good. That's what it is. It's stupid good.
So the pose of the elk is. That's the main focus of the painting. But what makes it is that light on the rump on his side.
Yeah.
There's, the steam, the breath is a little overdone. A lot of guys do that, and a lot of people are sick of seeing it. But it was necessary in this painting because without it, there's no separation between where the antlers come out of the head and the top of the head to the background.
And the background, yep.
And there needed to be that separation there. So that steam needed to be there in that spot. And this is a big one. This is, I think, 4 feet tall by 3 feet wide.
Bang.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it hangs at Illume Gallery West in Phillipsburg, Montana. When you walk in the door, it's the first thing you see when you walk in that gallery.
That's awesome. Beautiful.
And I don't remember what that frame cost, but it was a lot.
I don't even want to know, I don't think.
Wow.
These are, my camera's in my way a little bit. These are mule deer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I remember it, this piece was titled The Dance. And this was the pair of muleys that I photographed real close to Cody here during the rut last year. And the antlers on that buck weren't quite that big and gnarly. So I added some stuff and added some mass. But it ended up being very believable. If when you see a giant muley, it's like, what in the, how do they grow this shit? You know,
Right? I don't know.
It's like, and when you see it for real on the animal, it's like, oh, that doesn't look right, but it is. Then they get so wide and so heavy, those big old gnarly bucks, and the purples in the snow, and the light was just perfect on this. And I knew when I was photographing it that I every time the shutter went off, I could just hear the cash register going.
Oh, that's kind of like Buzzard when he does his modeling. He just hears cha-ching every time he hears that camera go off.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna end on what is my favorite one. This is my personal favorite because the first time, I think this was the first one that I saw, and when Eric was like, "Yeah, Jim, he's paints out wildlife," and he showed me this, I'm like, that's a photograph. That's not a painting. Yeah. I could not believe this was a painting, and I'm just in awe. It's amazing.
With some homage to Bob Kuhn on the background of this one, because he painted a lot of backgrounds like this. But the painting wasn't about the background. I needed it to be believable, but not distracting. But yeah, this bull I photographed in Colorado, and he was working this wallow and was digging his antlers in the mud and throwing mud everywhere. And then he would stand there with his head down. And if you've ever seen a horse splash in a river, that's what he was doing in the wallow. And that mud was flying out behind him. And I sat on this photo, this reference material, for a long time, not thinking I could pull it off. And this was a really big piece too. I think it's 4 feet wide. So, and another one of my favorite titles, it's called "Here's Mud in Your Eye." And so it broke some rules in wildlife art where the focal point needs to be the eye, and you need real definition in the eye. You need that little glint in the eye. And this painting wasn't about that. It was about the motion and what was going on, and that mud flying and the wet on the antlers.
Yeah, that's amazing there.
Yeah, so it broke some rules, and which I like to do. I love it when people tell me you can't paint animal butts because they don't sell. Well, that elk piece that was just prior, I will paint animal butts all day long. I love them. And
somebody clip that, please. We need that soundbite for sure.
This is amazing. Like I said, when you talked about the wet on antlers, that's the first thing that grabs me there. That in the mud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Immediately grabs you on that, not the eye or the head part. It's the antlers and the mud.
Yeah, and those antlers needed to be wet, and it took a while for me to figure out how to make them look that way.
All right,
but I got there.
You did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
I'm I want to wrap up because we only have a couple minutes before the server reboots, Eric. But
Yep.
I'm speechless. I'm such a fan. I just love your work.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's absolutely amazing, and I want to just keep looking at stuff. So the more you come out with things, I'm gonna look because
we
it's
didn't
amazing.
even get to talk about any of the crazy shit I do in the backcountry.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll that's for next time. That's for next time.
We're definitely gonna have you come back.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely get you back here. And one question that I just had a whisper to, was that elk sold?
Which one?
The one that we have up right now.
Yes.
It was sold.
Yeah, as a little story about that real quick. It was in my gallery up in Whitefish, and I needed it to come down to my gallery in Phillipsburg. So the gallery owner brought it down. And as we were unwrapping it, a couple that was in the gallery walked over, and the guy walked over and he said, "Honey, we're buying this painting." We didn't even have it unwrapped. It didn't get to the wall. We sold it within 5 minutes of it being in the gallery.
That's awesome. Well, Jim, we got to run real quick, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing your amazing talent. Everybody, again, Cast and Camo, code Cast and Camo for 15% off. Texas Select Seasonings, Carolina Basco, and thank you to C-Arc, our other sponsor. And we're going to get going here. And we're going to bring Jim back because Jim's awesome, and we have a lot more to talk about with him. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see everybody next Sunday night.
Appreciate it, guys. That was fun.
No, we won't be next Sunday.
Oh, that's right. 2 weeks, 2 Sundays from now.
Are you doing it New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve, we're doing it. Yes, sir.
We're going to